Bad Batch is back for its final season, and we're given not 2, but a 3-episode season opener just like season 1 did. And while I didn't think it may be everyone's cup of tea, I do think it is a very solid start in setting up the mood for this final season. We begin with the first episode, Confined, that pretty much oversees Omega's daily life while being, well, you know, as the title states, confined at the Tantiss base on Wayland. We see despite how miserable life is at the base, Omega still manages to keep her sanity and personality intact by crafting herself a Tuca doll, domesticating a Lurka hound she names Batcher that ends up seeing her get in trouble with Hemlock, and forming a whole new friendship with the imprisoned Crosshair, often retelling him how her day went and encouraging him that one day that they'll both escape. Now, Crosshair isn't too entertained with these stories, but he is interested with the prospect of getting out of Wayland, and continuously surprised at Omega's trust and loyalty in him by not wanting to escape without him by her side. Something of which he makes very clear he would not do the same for her. Nalase also plays a role here too by everyday managing to trash Omega's blood samples, stating that the young female clone would be in trouble had she were not to do this. Now, we don't know exactly why not yet, but this is later revealed in the third part of the opener, and it's a pretty big deal. This episode also gives us, the viewer, some interesting tidbits of knowledge as well, such as the hash marks in Omega's cell revealing how much time has passed, which the episode starts 21 days from her arrival at Tantiss and ends around day 125. The other aspect we get in this episode is the secret project Hemlock is working on Mount Tantiss. And while he doesn't say much about it, he does mention M-count. So given we know that cloning is involved, we can of course infer that he's talking about midichlorian count, and that being important in creating Force-sensitive Palpatine clones, which goes without saying is a reference to the Palpatine cloning scheme in The Rise of Skywalker. Now, this is the longest episode out of the 3, and while nothing crazy happens per se here, it's all really set up for what's to come next. It gives a very serious tone, kind of like what an animated show of Andor would look like, especially with the music. And I found myself enjoying every bit of it too. The next episode, Paths Unknown, sees things change focus from Omega to the Bad Batch's point of view, as Hunter and Wrecker manage to acquire intel on what they believe to be Omega's current whereabouts, after delivering to the Durant crime family the Pike who disgraced Roland Durant way back in Season 1. Using this intel, the two Batchers travel to the jungle planet of Cetron and find Hemlock's lab, or what's left of it. Because no, this place is not Tantiss base, but a former lab that Hemlock had before moving operations to Wayland. It's here where the Bad Batch meets 3 young clone cadets who escaped the lab before it got bombarded and have been trying to survive alone ever since. Naturally, they all have trust issues after being left behind by their clone brothers. But one of them notices that the Bad Batch are different and, you know, actually loyal. So he agrees to help go into Hemlock's lab to try and uncover any data on where the new lab whereabouts could be where Omega is being kept at. I will say it was a bit strange getting used to seeing only the Bad Batch now being made up of 2 members in Hunter and Wrecker. Yeah, they made it work, and I like the tonal shift in this episode being more horror-centric, which made things interesting. Hemlock's creations really shine here too, as we see what reminded me of the facehuggers from Alien, and the sentient, dangerous tree vine-like tentacles which belong to a jungle version of a Sarlacc monster experiment. Everything is pretty cool and it does add tension, but I will say things do end up being a little predictable here with the other young clones coming up to save the Bad Batch and their brother right at the very end. Although even with the data that the Batchers do get off of this planet, they're still way off from knowing the exact location of the Tantiss base. So this mission result is kind of so-so for them despite the massive risks that came with it. To be honest, I was also surprised not to see the Batch offer the 3 young clone cadets to join them too, as they, above all, still want to become soldiers as they were meant to be, but hey, the Bad Batch themselves are made up of only 2 members right now, so yeah, they could use the help, right? But at the same time, yeah, it's hard to pass on the chance to live a peaceful life on the island of Pabu. So either way is a win-win for the cadets. Now, for the most part, I enjoyed this episode, and like I said, it was nice to see the Bad Batch being operated in just Hunter and Wrecker. But given how they didn't really achieve much in this episode, I feel it was more of a it's about the journey than the destination type of deal, and I'm okay with that. As the most important thing in this episode had to be to highlight that the Batch are trying to do everything possible no matter what to find Omega, even if the odds are severely stacked against them, and it did just that. The final and third episode of the season opener that we got is Shadows of Tantiss. And this is essentially everything from the first setup episode coming into play here, as this time Nala Se is unable to discard Omega's blood sample, thus alerting her to escape Tantiss as soon as possible. Things also get a bit complicated as Palpatine arrives to the base to inspect Hemlock's current progress on Project Necromancer, which is the exact title that we've already heard referenced in Season 3 of The Mandalorian. So yeah, we can safely assume by now that this is Palpatine's plan to eventually clone a Force-sensitive body of himself. It's only the early days of the Empire, and Palps is already focusing on his ultimate plan for immortality, of which we know will last decades into the sequel trilogy, with the project only half succeeding later on Exegol. With the base's full attention now being on Palpatine, Omega uses this to her advantage and breaks out Crosshair, and the two then use the Lurkahound Colonels to escape from the base and make their way into the Wayland jungle. Sure, Emery Carr attempts to stop them just before they do that, with what seems like Omega also trying to give her an opportunity to join them and leave Tantiss once and for all. Emery rejects it, and well, we still don't know really where Emery stands in all of this. Like what her true intentions are and what to really make of her per se as a character. I mean, it's clear enough that she cares for Omega, having her best interest in her, but at the same time, she's also one of Hemlock's goons. And I still have no idea if she has it in her to, betray him later on or not. But eventually, with the help of Batcher, who shows up again, from episode 1, Omega and Crosshair manage to hijack an Imperial transport shuttle and make their way to depart from the planet. It's also at the same time that Omega's blood sample is finally tested for the first time and revealed that she, unlike all of the other clones, is able to keep her midichlorian count intact, forcing Hemlock to call off all of the attacks on her ship as he needs her captured alive, thus allowing Omega and Crosshair and, Batcher to do the impossible and escape Wayland. Now, despite this being the shortest episode out of the 3, it was the most exciting and action-packed one, feeling almost longer than it actually was, and that's a good thing. Although, considering how close Omega and Crosshair were to jump to lightspeed right before Hemlock called the chase off, It does have me questioning a little bit if him finding out that she has a high M count blood sample really mattered or changed the outcome of this episode at all. Because I have a feeling she would have escaped anyway, and whether Hemlock knows it or not, he's still going to chase her down because she knows the existence and location of the Tantiss base. So all of that forced tension leading up to Omega's blood sample being tested and revealed to Hemlock kind of just felt like meh to me now that I really think about it. But that's probably just a nitpick of mine if anything. Overall, I really did find myself enjoying this Season 3 opener. Sure, things may have started out slow, picked up in the middle a bit, and then escalated significantly at the end, and if anything, it made me want to watch more of it, so it succeeded there, as it kinda felt like an animated 3-episode arc of Andor. So it was a fun and solid ride, and once again, I'm liking the darker and more serious tone of it, which is only a good sign. As after all, the Clone Wars and Rebels only really got good a few seasons in when things got more darker and serious. So given that we're at the same part now with the Bad Batch, I'm expecting this exact same quality and, well, more going forward. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind another episode or two of just Omega and Crosshair, as I find their relationship much more compelling to watch thanks to their clash in personalities. Than say, Omega with Hunter and Wrecker episodes that we've seen so much before. But I don't know, after watching this season opener, I feel as Season 3 has some serious potential now to outdo even some of the bangers that we got in Season 2, and yeah, I'm all here for it. And that was my take on the Bad Batch Season 3 opener. Let me know what you all thought about this opener in the comments below, and if you haven't already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.